By the end of this video, you're gonna know 5 reasons why stretching is a waste of time and what to do for it. And stick around to the end because I'm gonna give you a bonus at the end of this video. My name is Dr. Story. I've been in practice for over 25 years. I'm gonna give you realistic advice based on my experience, as well as based on the scientific literature. All references will be down in the description down below. So if you have a gut instinct where stretching may not be living up to the promises that everybody says it is, or you're not sure if you should be stretching or not, this is the greatest video for you. So is stretching a waste of time? Let's go through it one by one. Number 1, does stretching prevent injuries? In the literature, the answer is pretty well established. The answer is no. Stretching does not prevent injuries. A good example would be runners. Now, runners are a fantastic subject to study because very often runners, they're injured. They have plantar fasciitis, they have Achilles tendonitis, tendinosis, runner's knee, hip problems, back problems. They're a great subgroup of our society to study because we can take them in large groups and study them whether they stretch or not. There have been numerous studies where they take runners and they stretch before their workout, and then they try stretching in the middle of their workout, and then they stretch after the workout, and it almost doesn't even matter when they stretch. What ends up happening is it does not prevent injuries. So what does prevent injuries in runners? 3 particular things. Number 1, running technique. If you can improve your running technique, you will be eliminating many of the causes of running injuries. A good book is called Chi Running. There's a link down below of another video that I reviewed this book. I have personally found it to be wonderful. It improved my running technique, and it is fantastic for preventing injuries. The second thing is to improve your hip strength. And again, all the links are down below. You can reference those after this video is over. And improving your hip strength keeps essentially the body in alignment and prevents a whole host of problems. The third thing is core strengthening, and I have an entire playlist of this. So if you start strengthening your core, strengthening your hips, and improve your running technique, that will help running injuries much more than static stretching. Now, one of the fascinating things about most of these studies is they found the less that the runner stretched, the less injuries they had. Number 2, does stretching help with athletic recovery and prevent DOMS, or delayed onset muscle soreness? The answer, according to the literature, no. If you exercise too hard and the next day you can hardly get up off a toilet or you can't even walk down a flight of stairs, you simply exercised too hard the day before. Stretching will not prevent delayed onset muscle soreness. It will not improve your recovery from exercise. What does? Time. Time heals delayed onset muscle soreness. That is really the only thing that has been researched that actually works. Now, if you want to talk about the pain of delayed onset muscle soreness, then that's a different story. What about NSAIDs? NSAIDs will reduce the pain, of course, that's their job. It'll reduce the pain of the delayed onset muscle soreness. However, there's a side effect of NSAIDs, and that is NSAIDs reduce protein synthesis. What the heck does that mean? You go and you exercise, and what you're doing when you exercise, you're breaking down muscle tissue with the hopes that in time your body will recover and rebuild muscle. That's called protein synthesis because muscle is made of protein. So NSAIDs interfere with some enzymatic situations that allow that to process. So the problem is if you're exercising to build muscle, but you don't like the pain and you interfere with the protein synthesis, you're defeating the purpose of exercising. So while it does help the pain of DOMS, it does not actually help you recover. The best thing you could do is learn from the experience of the soreness and actually exercise in a very progressive fashion. That is the thing that will reduce the delayed onset muscle soreness, and you will actually get stronger. So in other words, if you have DOMS, suck it up, buttercup. Just wait for some time and it'll go away. Number 3, static stretching will improve your athletic performance, right? No. not according to the scientific literature. In fact, if you do static stretching right before you do strength training, it can significantly reduce your strength. Why? There's these little nerve fibers called GTOs, or Golgi tendon organs, and they're kind of between where the tendon and the muscle kind of come together. And what happens is they contribute towards the stiffness that you feel in a tendon. So it can act like a strong spring. That gives a certain amount of stiffness, which helps you with stability and strength. If you stretch right before you try to do a strength training exercise, then you reduce some of that stiffness, which makes it feel looser, but you reduce your power. So if you're calming down the Golgi tendon organs, you're reducing the power output. So what do? Well, the best way to warm up is to not stretch, but rather go through a phase where you start with light weights in the beginning and progressively go up. So let's use bench press as an example. What you would do first is maybe do 12 to 15 repetitions just with the bar. You'd stack on some weights, warm up with about 10, 12, 15 repetitions of that lighter weight, and build up through a full range of motion. So by using your muscles in a full range of motion, progressively increasing the intensity or volume of exercise, that is the best way to actually warm up to improve your performance. Number 4, a flexible spine means a painless spine. The research says no. There is no correlation between flexibility of a spine and how much pain you have. In fact, some research has shown that the more flexible your spine is, actually, the more pain you might have. So in fact, it's the opposite. The spine in particular is a little bit different than other joints. You see, if you have instability of the spine, those little micro movements can cause tearing of the disc. And when the body senses damage to the disc, all the muscles around the area will start to try to protect you by actually contracting. It's called protective muscular spasm. So you feel this tightness. So by stretching, you further instigate trauma to that area. So what's the best solution for this, for at least your spine? Actually, stability training rather than flexibility training. There's a big difference. This is why Stuart McGill has become so popular, because of the success rate of the Stuart McGill Big 3. Again, there's links down below. It's on my YouTube channel. I have all the exercises for you. You just have to find them and start doing those rather than stretching, and your spine will have less pain. The 5th and final thing that you need to know about why stretching is kind of a waste of time is because people think that if you stretch a muscle, you can make a muscle longer. Research has shown the answer is absolutely not. When you stretch, you are increasing the tolerance to a stretch, but you are not making muscles longer. You cannot grow a muscle where there's a tendon. I'm going to give you a prime example. I'm going to show you my big, bulging, massive bicep, and I'm going to show you why stretching will not make this muscle longer. Now, if you look at my arm right now, my bicep goes just to the point about 3 inches from my elbow. If I stretch my bicep, my muscle will not get longer. I cannot grow actual muscle right there. That right there is a tendon. By stretching muscles, you don't make the muscles actually longer. That is an impossibility. So what do you do if you want your muscles to be longer? You need to pick better parents that have longer muscle bellies. Unfortunately, the length of your muscles is genetic. You are probably fuming mad at me because so far I have taken everything that you thought stretching was good for and shown that the scientific literature does not support any of that. So there's a problem though. The problem is this: the science says one thing, but empirically what you'll find is many people find benefit of static stretching. In other words, lots of people swear that the stretching actually helps them prevent hamstring injuries, or they'll swear that their muscles got longer by stretching, or they have a better spine, or that helps prevent injuries, or they're less sore if they actually stretch before a workout. Now, this is a good example because what happens in the scientific literature is it's very limited. Sometimes you could take any type of study and blow holes in it. You could say, well, there weren't enough subjects in the study, or they didn't do it this particular way, or that study was only on young runners, it doesn't apply to old people. If it's a study on runners, how does that apply to karate? Or if it's a study on karate, that doesn't apply to runners. Blah, blah, blah. So many times, sometimes things that are in studies don't actually translate into real life. So if you have found that static stretching is actually beneficial for you, let me know in the comments section down below. Now I'm going to tell you my experience with stretching. My experience in dealing with patients with musculoskeletal pain is this. If they've been stretching constantly, and their pain just never seems to go away, then it's likely that stretching is probably not going to help their situation. Now, the great thing about stretching, other than the spine, is it's very benign, meaning it's unlikely that you're going to hurt yourself further. So if you did a workout and you have a lot of delayed onset muscle soreness, and you want to try stretching after working out and seeing if that makes a difference, if you feel it makes a difference for you, then I'm supporting it. I'm all for it. Because you know what? Scientific literature is a game of percentages. It's not an absolute. So if you find that it helps you, I'm in support of it. But many people, when they come into my office, they're stretching a half an hour a day, or they're doing 5 yoga classes a week, yet they still have pain. And there's this tremendous guilt that people feel like, oh, if I could just learn a different stretch. Well, the reality is many people feel guilty because they don't feel they're stretching enough, thinking that stretching is this magical potion, magical fairy dust that's supposed to solve all problems. And the answer is, truthfully, it's possible that stretching is not going to solve your problem, because the scientific literature is pretty solid on this for the most part. So if stretching helps a person, great. But my point of this video is, if you feel guilty because you're not stretching, or you think you should, or you're stretching and you think that stretching more is going to make a difference, it's important to understand that you should not feel guilty, because the scientific literature is actually showing that stretching is not all it was meant to be.